If you'll take your seats, we're going to start a video, Hope in Action, which is a video that we made to demonstrate a little bit about how we do not need to wait for our federal government to act, but reparations are taking place right now. And back to the theme of today, how am I going to stand up myself in reparations? So we're looking in the mirror. So without further ado, Hope in Action.
How do we offer redemption as the premise for our interactions with one another?
Reparation Generation proudly joins a national movement seeking reparations for Black Americans. It's time to reconcile our nation's legacy of slavery, segregation, and systemic racism. It's time to move forward together.
If you have been put into a position where you are unable to fully realize your potential, and if that happened as a result of someone else's doing, it is important that a repair is enacted for that injustice, because someone has literally stopped you from realizing your full potential. And if we're going to be a country, and if we're going to be this more perfect union, we have to go back and repair the injustices that have taken place with groups of people in this country, in the United States.
And one of the ways that can happen is to repair the breach, to repair the hurt and harm, to make reparation for the things we did wrong.
I love this place. I love the place. I love all the light. I mean, when I walked in, the sun was shining. You get to go out and sit out with my plants and watch people pass by. It means stability. It means creating wealth. Although I don't have any children, I still can pass on to family members. That's something a lot of Black people or a lot of African Americans don't have the opportunity to do. So I feel like this is gaining wealth for my family in the future. And that means the world for me, as well as giving me stability now. I have a place that's mine. No one can take it from me, but this is mine. My name is on it. I have a permanent address.
The federal government can and should make reparations. Unfortunately, we're just at a time in our country where we don't have the political support to move forward yet with reparations, with a national reparations program and package. And until then, I think for many people, including myself, once we learn the truth of our country, it becomes, for me, painful. I'm not somebody who wants to sit back and wait for the government to take action. I am ready to take action now.
I think Reparations Generation has done some of that. And to make this a national cause will be great.
We are a part of the human race, and although we might come in different shades, we have a moral obligation to care for one another. When a group of individuals have been horrifically harmed, we must come together as a community and as a nation to address it.
Reparation Generation is powerful. It's saying we ain't talking about it, we acting on it. I'm on that advisory board for a reason, because I want to participate in a group of people who have done the right thing because of conscience, who have not waited upon the government to give them the green light to act as a redemptive force and a reparative energy in the midst of a culture that cries out for it.
Thank you. We have a few slides to help prompt our conversation today, and we also have some people in the audience who are part of the Berkeley Reparations Coalition, who are going to say a few words. So I'll go to the first slide, which is for you. From this morning, what did you hear, either amongst yourselves or from Awele and I, that brought on an aha, something you hadn't considered before? And just at your table, take a minute and share a little bit about what you heard. Thank you.
It could be thoughts, questions, parallel stories, ahas, but something that's resonating, perking up.
For those of you who are watching on Zoom, if you would just take a minute with your own thoughts and a pencil and write down your own thoughts. You can drop them into the chat. Roz here is helping me. Thank you. And we'll be back in just a minute. All right, I know that was a very short minute, and I'm wanting to ask you to take that energy into this whole year. Continue to be curious and asking each other, what can I still do? And also share, what did you do? Because with each step, you need to get a pat on the back that I'm taking a step from each other. Because as I said while I was up there, this nation isn't ready, at least our government's not ready. We are ready. So let's keep taking steps. Okay, our next slide talks about the reparations framework. And I'm not sure, I know for at least one member of this community, the UN framework was a new idea. So the UN framework has principles and guidelines that help all of us decide what might reparations look like. As I also said before, most people, they hear the word, that's all they think about is the check. But there are 5 pillars. Restitution. Restitution is restoring the condition that existed before the harm was caused. That's what restitution is. Now, in some cases, that can't happen. So that's where some compensation comes in. Providing financial redress when restitution is not possible. Rehabilitation. The harms to Black Americans have happened over generations, many generations. Just because a check is written does not mean that one is healed. So what is the rehabilitation that needs to be implemented? The policies and practices and systems to remedy the harm and support the recovery. What does that look like? Satisfaction. A lot of times, our country, those in power get to decide what satisfaction should look like. When we're talking about who was harmed, the harmed people need to help determine what is satisfaction. And the last is the guarantee of non-repetition. Because we've done this over and over again, We have very deep muscle memory of how to harm. We need to work hard to unlearn those and to promise not to do them again. And so that's the framework that reparations needs to take if it's going to be meaningful and lasting. Next slide. We talked during our presentation about harms being caused at all kinds of levels. Our federal government, for sure. But individuals have caused harm. Families and generations of families have caused harm. Joanna can talk about her family. I'm sure she has in this community, coming from Greensboro, North Carolina. Organizations have caused harm, exclusion. Governments, our local government, municipalities have caused harm, states, and the harms are economic, they are identity theft, there's all sorts of elements of emotional harms that have been caused, and therefore healing can take place at all those levels. And since we do have folks from the Berkeley Reparations Coalition here, I would like them to come and share a little bit about what's being done here at the municipal level within Berkeley Unified School District and elsewhere. And I think Josh Daniels is going to be the... There's people on Zoom.
Oh, on Zoom, okay. Oh, then I will come over there. All right. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for being here and for having us here. So the Berkeley Reparations Coalition has been working for about 5 years to bring about repair within the school district. Just to take a little bit of a step back, we don't see this work as the only way of repair or as a full repair, but rather one of a variety of efforts that need to work in tandem, both locally at the state level, federally and internationally, to bring about sort of the larger societal repair that is so important. But we do think that, like with a number of other efforts that have started here in Berkeley, we can offer one way of bringing about some repair that can be an inspiration and a potential model for other communities. So whether it's, curb cuts or what have you, right? Like what happens here in Berkeley oftentimes spreads. So the district put together a task force. It made 3 recommendations, which was mentioned before, and we are working to implement them. So the first was the historical study, looking at the history of the district, what it has done to cause harm through its actions and inactions, and then repair that harm. The district has put forward some money, also received a matching grant, and is moving forward with that study. Once that's complete, we would then move on to developing curriculum on the legacy of chattel slavery at the federal, state, and local levels. So at the federal level, there actually has been some work on that. At the state level, California just did its own reparations task force, has its own report, so you would sort of use that. And at the local level here in Berkeley, what the historical study will reveal would be included, because it's important, as having grown up here, I still live here, my kids are in school here, it's important that we understand the history of why things are the way that they are. Why is it that the demographics have changed? Why is it that MLK, Sacramento, what is that statute on Sacramento Street, if everyone has driven by it, right at that walkway? Who is that? What did he do? He's a pretty important guy. Yeah, exactly. And then the third recommendation is educational opportunity grants. And as David mentioned, we do often think about compensation. And while not the only way to cause repair, it is an important feature. And if you look at many of the other examples of repair that have been done, they do include compensation. So there's obviously the well-known ones, such as Japanese Americans who were incarcerated in California, whether it's Holocaust survivors, but even more recently, California had a forced sterilization program that many people don't know. I didn't know until I did this work. And there is payments to those survivors for that forced sterilization that the government of California is paying out. So, and there's many other examples, but all this is to say that we do think that the grants are a critical piece of the 3 recommendations. And even though those are the ones that can be most controversial, We do think, like in Evanston, Illinois, where they've been doing actual payments, we do think that that can be done in Berkeley. And our sense is that Berkeley in general supports that effort. So I don't know if there's time for questions, but I appreciate you all listening. And we're organizing house parties, and we were flying it back to school nights, and we're just trying to sort of spread the word and organize around supporting the recommendations of the district's task force. Should I answer questions, or is it discussion, or what would be helpful?
If there's a quick question, go ahead.
What's the next step? Is it at the city council level?
So this is, our focus is on the school district. We would love the city to be more involved. Our mayor was actually the co-chair of the district's reparations task force. So we're hoping that she can help move the city and engage in this issue more. But for those of you who know Berkeley politics, the mayor actually doesn't have as much direct control as one might want, perhaps. So it really is the whole city council that needs to sort of get behind this. There was an effort to do something a few years ago, but it has since sort of petered out. So we're definitely hoping to engage with the city more on this. Yes, please.
Hi, Josh. Could you, since we don't have two mics that are passing around right now,
Yeah.
could you repeat the question so we have a visual?
Thank you. So the question was about the city's involvement. Yeah, Willie.
I had no idea that you would be here, Josh. You are a neighbor.
I'm your neighbor, yes.
In that small world. But I wanted to ask, are you aware of some of the interconnections? You know that African American Holistic Resource Center is just opening up. They're just past the zoning, and they're going to be building on the site on Alcatraz. Is there any common connection that you can see in terms of how that can be? Because working with Awele, I think, would be a important role in terms of what you're doing in terms of outreach. But it's also a natural connection. What do you think?
Yeah. So the question for those on Zoom was about sort of working with other community organizations and efforts, and the answer is yes to all of it. We always, strive to do more connection and have more meetings. So the short version is yes. We, because our focus has been district related, some of the city organizations that we would sort of naturally align with, we haven't had an opportunity to connect with as much as we would like, but certainly that's part of our desire, and we would love to have that conversation and connection. So we're going to follow up, Willie, because it's not only them, but a few others that I want to. Yeah, that's right. That's right. She does.
But she also works with the school district, so naturally there's a connection. And since you've been in Berkeley all these years, I figure that you know her.
I do. Yeah. We'll follow up for sure.
Alcatraz right above Avalon. But it's going to be it's a city building. But if you tear it down, it's going to end up being a resource center. Thank you. Next year.
So the next two slides are going to take a look at Rep Gen, or Preparation Generation's mission and vision, and then the core values. So the mission: be the generation of Americans who achieve federal reparations for slavery and the unjust, systematic denial of constitutional rights of Black Americans well into the 21st century. We're entering the second decade almost. Our vision, well, we are in the second decade, right? Our vision: to become the more perfect union. Our Constitution promises every American. And core values: Black founders, National Association board-led programming decisions. Others hold responsibility for fundraising. Contributors: reparative transfers are not gifts. Reparative transfers should be made to all Black American descendants, regardless of income level. All Americans will experience positive individual and societal benefits from racial wealth equity. Truth, acknowledgement, and healing are part of reparations for all Americans and help secure our democracy. All participants are valuable, co-learners and co-creators with Rep Gen. And the work, efforts, and programs of Rep Gen will not perpetuate harm. I'm going to turn it over to David.
Thank you. We're going to move quickly through the rest of the slides just so we can get back to you having talk. Just a little bit about our programs. So Reparation Generation is an organization that models reparative programs. We are not an answer. And I want to take that back to what Awele just said. Our mission is a Federal Reparations Act. This really does have to be done eventually at a federal level, but we can do things individually just as we've caused harm to individually. So the programs that I'm going to mention, one is called our Home Reparative Transfer Program, or HORT. The video, you saw one of the recipients of a $25,000 reparative transfer of wealth. Again, this is not charity. This is a transfer of wealth that has been given to individuals, and our model programs currently are in Detroit. We're in our third iteration and cohort. This is our first one at scale where we're making 40 reparative transfers at $25,000. And this money can be used for whatever people want to use it for. It is often used for down payment, but it is given as a transfer at the closing. They can just keep the money and do what they wish with it. Community engagement and activation, and Awele will talk about that in a minute. That's where we create small house meetings, or house parties, as Josh called them, where we get into rooms and we talk to each other and we start listening to each other's stories, because we all have a story with how we got on this path. Restorative genealogy, which one of the featured actors, or wasn't an actor, but it was Kelly Farish. She is a restorative genealogist, and we work with Black Americans to help identify their descendants to slavery. We're doing that in part because of the California Reparations Task Force and our belief that we will need at some point to have a proven class of harmed people, and we are using those who descend from American chattel slavery as the harmed class. In order to put yourself in the class, we have to help you with the evidence. One of the things we found in our first cohort was that process of helping with the genealogy and providing the evidence was reparative. That as one finds their roots and their history, it can be extremely triggering and harmful, but it can also be extremely reparative. And Awele has spoken eloquently about that for her own experience. And the last program is our participatory research program, which Erica was helpful in creating, which is the idea of helping to determine if whatever we are imagining and modeling is actually causing or creating any kind of healing, and or does it cause harm? And so that is one of our programs, is in order to help share the learnings with other programs, we wish to make sure we understand our program. And what is now spawned out of that is now a nationwide collaborative of other reparative programs and evaluators that are now creating a national framework for reparative evaluation. So that's part of the work that we are doing. Next slide. This is a little bit more on the evaluation. One of the ways we evaluate whether healing has occurred is by looking at evaluation through the social determinants of health. So this isn't only about, is one becoming more financially stable, but what happens within your home, what happens within your community, what happens in your environment, how does this affect your health, your mental health, and your family? So I'm not going to go into all of that, but just to show that's part of the evaluation program. Next slide. Okay. I'm going to let, before we get onto this slide, I'll let Awele talk a little bit about house meetings. She's our national coordinator.
Okay. So for the National House Meetings as coordinator, my role is to meet with you, preferably a month in advance, but it could be earlier than that, to think about scheduling and planning your house meeting, to think about where would you feel the most trust and safety in the people that you would like to invite. It could be as small and intimate as 5 or 10 or 15. Sometimes folks do choose to have something in a public space of your choosing, but both of them hopefully ADA, so that folks will not be restricted from coming in to participate. And in doing so, we then think about the conversation that you would like to have around reparations. how we would like that conversation to take place, beginning with your commitment and what resonates for you and why this is important for you to do. The power of story can move and change people and belief systems. And from there, being able to hear from others. And then looking at the bigger way that this is a part of an important movement that should be at the federal level, and that we start one person at a time. Possibly you may have folks that you want to invite that may also be interested in hosting house meetings and being able to work with them and to find out where they are in regards to what they may have to offer. They could potentially be a treasure of abilities that they can share, resources, free resources. They might have skill sets that they can offer as free labor, or they may be able to help in regards to communication and getting the word out, social media, and other gifts and talents that they bring with them. Any questions? Okay. Yes. So I'm just taking over this position. I'm going to let David speak to that, to the past. Okay, sure. And I'll repeat the question. Have there been any East Bay house meetings that have taken place?
So somebody in this room, I'm sure, will be one of the East Bay House meeting coordinators. But there have been meetings in the House in the East Bay. Erica has hosted them. I've hosted them. Other people have hosted them. We don't have any right now on the docket that will be coming in this new year. So for sure, I think we're going to be passing out, I have a small slip of paper that has a QR code, or actually the QR code can also go on the screen, where you can email us with information as it relates to if you would like to attend a house meeting or create your own house meeting. These house meetings are really a process for one to do their own inventory. As Awele said, and as we tried to demonstrate today, naming our own story is part of the process of repair. We have all been harmed by this institution of slavery and its many afterlives. Black Americans have been harmed by far the most, but everyone has been harmed by this system. And so naming your story, the benefits you've had, the harms you've experienced, is going to be important. And Awele, as a master storyteller, will help people work with that. So last but not least, and then we'll go to more questions, time, talent, and treasure. Those are the 3 T's. As you think about how to move forward in enacting your own role in this movement towards repair, you may not be able to do all of those. You might have talent that you can contribute. That's some of the things Awele was mentioning. You might have time. You may be retired. You have time to get involved with the Berkeley Reparations Coalition. They need bodies. They need to organize house meetings. They need support. You can be volunteering for Reparation Generation. You could be, there's lots of places to get involved in racial. Uhuru is here in the house. They need support. There's no shortage of places that need time. Treasure. That's what's needed the most. At this moment in time, I'm going to highlight, since we all look very close to the same age, that baby boomers will be transferring trillion with a T, dollars to the next generation. That's the number. Think about how much do you really need to transfer to your children? How much do they really need? How much did they already benefit from a system that denied many others that privilege? Rethink about that distribution. That's what I'm doing, and I'm encouraging you to do the same. Take that treasure, figure out how you can use it, because only in I'm going to say the democracy that we are trying to save today is the democracy that was created with the institution of slavery. We need to repair that democracy, but to repair that democracy means we have to repair that institution. I'm getting off my soapbox. Thank you for inviting us here today. May this be a year where all of us heal a little bit and we repair a lot. Oh, the QR code is very tiny up there? It's bigger now. Okay. Yeah, that's the QR code. There's also the email, I think says, the website is www.reparationgeneration.org, and you can email director@reparationgeneration.org, and information will get to us. So that's a great way. Or info@reparationgeneration will also get to us, and Awele and I can be there. But with that, I will see if there's questions or comments that we can answer, or we'll just turn it back to the tables. Yes, Doug.
I'm very interested to know what the result of the 40 reparations transfers of $25,000. What was the result of that?
Doug's question is, he's very interested to know what is the result of these reparative transfers that have already happened. So we're now in the process of doing 40. So far that we had 2 pilots, each of which were 6, so 12 have been done, and now we're doing 40. And I am going to tell you that most of that information is in the impact report from the first and second cohort, and within that there's a QR code where you can hear the individuals who've received reparative transfer tell you in their own words what was positive and what could be improved. So we're trying to share all of the learnings as best we can. So I think that's the best place. But some of the things we learned, Doug, is you don't do reparative transfers and home buying in the winter in Detroit. So we're not doing them right at this very moment. That's an example of something we learned. We also learned that $25,000 when being implemented by Reparation Generation feels like a gift. It feels like someone won the lottery, which is not what we want reparations to feel like. And so that's now informing us with how should we talk about these differently, but also recognizing $25,000 is not that much money. So I think that's important to know, but it is something. And so we're taking all that learning and applying that. There's others too. Yes.
That it's because of, partially because of DEI, that Trump was elected by poor white people. I don't know how to get through to him. I suggested that he make white fragility. I explained that, my ancestors were poor, but nevertheless, I know that I have always benefited, and so did they, from having white skin, that if all the circumstances were the same, but that they were descendants of African people, that they would have faced more hardship and more discrimination. So I don't know how to get through to somebody like that. That's one question. And then the other question is, well, one thing I said is, okay, well, that's a whole different question. We can have another movement, another effort for a universal basic income that would help all poor people.
So the first, I'll go with the second first, which the second was a comment about how do we create systems that provide security for all. That was what your comment was about, like universal basic income, regardless of who you are. And is that correct? That was the comment. How do we do that? That's maybe more of a question. I don't have that answer. I'll leave that to the public policy folks at Goldman. The first question, how does one talk to somebody who is does not believe in reparations and feels that their plight is in part because of prior activities, affirmative action programs, DEI, whatever you want to call it. How do you have a conversation with that person? I can only say for that I don't. That Reparation Generation is about the 30 million Americans who are interested, curious, and possibly ready to be reparations activists. So those folks, I'm being real honest, I'm not trying to convince people that reparations is the right thing. I'm just trying to get people who are curious about why injustice exists and that they think there might be some link. I don't know if that helps, but there's lots that they could read, but I'm not sure that they're interested in reading those things. A question was this program introduced into a prison? No, not yet. That's an interesting question.
This is kind of a comment. I do not feel the way the person Phoebe so generously was trying to communicate with feels. I am curious about reparations. And I am a white person in difficult circumstances who frequently feels overwhelmed, and I noticed myself feeling some overwhelm with the slides, and what brought me back was remembering the conversations I had with Willie and Awele and how I felt at the beginning, and it reminded me of, I used to live at a Zen center where the Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams spoke about what has it done to white people? What happens to us inside to have been a part of this inequity? And so I don't know if this is I'm just sharing my experience. It's not a suggestion, it's not an answer, but when it's about my growth and healing, and not about a list of things I should be able to do, or like you said, not charity, when it's about how to be part of the human race and be more human myself, I find the energy again. And I also was going to mention, I hesitate to mention this, and I hope it won't be wrong to mention, but the first thing that made a real difference for me in this idea was seeing an episode of Atlanta that shows a world, I think primarily with economic reparations, but some of the visuals of that episode, seeing a bus driver that looked like me and realizing I've never seen a bus driver that looked like me before watching that episode, seeing white people serve black people at restaurants. There's some visual impact of that episode that was helpful for me initially, so I just wanted to share those things.
I'm going to apologize that that wasn't all on the mic for those who are watching, and I can't paraphrase that. That was very powerful. So thank you for sharing that. And do you want to say again, or I'm going to pass the mic from now on? Okay, she's going to recap. Thank you. Annie.
Sorry, everyone. Thank you so much. Annie, brief recap. The Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams, who wrote a book called Radical Dharma, talks about investigating ourselves in the process of learning about racial injustice and reparations. And when I feel overwhelmed, that helps me when I think about self-healing and human race healing. And the second thing was about the episode of Atlanta about reparations and how powerful some of those visuals were for me. And I don't know if those things can reach someone who's not curious, but those are things that came up for me. Thank you.
Was there... Okay, we'll take another question while she finishes her mouthful if there's another question. Hank.
I'm just curious, and I'm sorry if I missed if this was already talked about, but I wonder if you ever focus on people whose ancestors actually were slave owners. I know in my own family history, we didn't think that anybody in our family was a slave owner, and then we dug through this big pile of old manuscripts, and we found out that yes, we had an ancestor in North Carolina who owned slaves. So I'm just wondering if you make any effort to encourage people to look into their family history and see if they were actually, directly benefited.
So one of the benefits of my being in community with Joanna is we are part of Coming to the Table, which is a national organization of over 5,000 members that was started by descendants of enslavers sitting at the table with descendants of those whose families were enslaved. And so we have networked with them. We've presented to various communities around the country who have descendants who were enslavers, and many are providing reparative transfers of wealth. So yes, we do. We do not help with that genealogy to help them dig up that history. But I also like to remind people that my people were not enslavers. But I certainly did benefit from the systems of slavery and the afterlife vestiges that gave me benefit. And so I stand here as one who recognizes that history. And when people point and say they're the ones who are to blame, I look at the three fingers pointing at me that says I am the person who benefited from that institution. So it all works together. So Hank, it's a great question. We're constantly trying to network with Coming to the Table. That's the one national organization I know that's working with descendants of enslavers. Is putting on a coat or raising an arm? No, I'm trying to. Okay. Are you ready?
Hey, everybody. I'm Christine. Many things are going through my brain, so I'm just going to throw some stuff out there. First, I'd like to be on maybe the genealogy helping gathering crew. And, you know, we have a resource in the Oakland Hills called the Mormon Temple, and they say that they have everyone. So that's good to know. I grew up in New York, and I grew up in a really eclectic, very diverse community, all nationalities, and the folks, there was farms there, so the folks came up from Puerto Rico and lived in houses and worked on the farms. And my neighbor, my best friends, the Murkisons, they raised 11 kids, and their daddy worked on the farm, and they lived in a house that was like it's called a shotgun house. Anyway, so I'm lucky because my dad was a civil rights attorney, and we treated everybody with respect. There is no boundaries. Everybody gets treated neutral. But one of my visions, is that I think that the ACLU needs to go on tour and go speak at colleges all around the country with everybody's in the audience of all different denominations and races, and learn that everybody's got the same damn rights under the X, Y, and Z. And so the people who are sitting way over there might think that they don't have any rights because of the color of their skin. You know, it's a way of educating people. They don't have to get it, but some of them may get it. And I think that's one step to do it. Anyway. And then also, you know, it starts in the home and how people are raised, and it's, I guess that's the word that's called systemic. And so, you know, just to turn people onto a different light, that there are other ways of viewing the same thing. I know we're all human beings, and humanity is key. Anyway.
Okay, well, another question.
Hi, my name's Alex. So when I think about slavery, I think about the Dutch East India Company, the first corporation in existence. And I wonder how this organization fits into dismantling capitalism. Specifically, I feel like that is a reparation in and of itself, to dismantle capitalism. Anyway.
We're in Berkeley. So, yes, slavery, it was a capitalist enterprise, no doubt. And the Dutch and the Portuguese and the Spaniards all developed that system before the British jumped in and perfected it. So, It's a harsh reality. That is our American capitalism. For now, we take small steps. Mandani, there you go. Okay, I think we're coming to the end unless there's one more question. Again, thank you very, very much for opening your home to us, and wishing you again a good year and a year of healing.